The night after their high school entrance exams, she was curled up on the couch with her husband, casually discussing where they should take the twins, a boy and a girl, for a relaxing vacation. Everything felt normal, until he suddenly turned to her, eyes serious and cold, and said, "Let's get a divorce. The kids will stay with me. We'll split the assets 50-50. For a moment, her entire body went numb. It was like lightning had struck her out of nowhere. Her lips parted, then closed, then parted again, but no words came. All she felt was a sharp bitterness surging from her chest up to her eyes. Tears blurred her vision just as the twins walked back in from outside. Neither of them looked shocked. Their faces were calm, their movements casual, as if they had known this day would come. Her daughter quietly sat beside her, reaching for her hand. Her son stood in front of them, expressionless, and faced his father. "We agree to the divorce," he said coolly. "But my sister and I are staying with Mom. We want child support doubly, and Mom gets 3/4 of the marital assets." She froze. Even her breath seemed to stop. How had her children? But before she could speak, her husband led the twins into his study. Still reeling, she scrambled to her feet and rushed to follow. But just as she reached the door, she heard his impatient voice from inside. "Lucas, Luna, I'll say it again. Sandra is just a useless housewife. She's got nothing to offer you." Her son's voice was calm and unwavering. "We already have tutors for school. We take care of ourselves. We'll earn our own degrees. We don't need her help." Then came her daughter's voice, sweet but sharp. "Dad, we're thinking about you too. That assistant of yours, her belly is already huge. If Lucas and I go live with you, we'll just be in her way." Her daughter didn't flinch as she brought up the mistress and the unborn child. The words hung in the air like a slap. Her husband's voice faltered. From outside the door, she could barely process what followed. Her ears buzzed, her heart ached, her tears wouldn't stop. When the study door finally opened, she had already broken down. Pablo stepped out, hesitated when he saw her crying. His tone softened.
"I'm sorry."
"You can have custody of Lucas and Luna. 3/4 of our assets are yours. But the company's shares, we split those evenly." She nodded, barely able to speak through the sobs. Logically, she knew it was the best deal she could get. But emotionally, it still felt like a dagger through the heart. "Let's cash out the shares," Lucas spoke up. "Mom doesn't know how to manage equity. She needs real money." Luna added, "Since we're family, it's better to sell them to Dad than to some outsider. He'll have more control, and once the company goes public, he'll profit even more." She stared at them, stunned. Those shares didn't just represent money, they represented power. Her children had chosen her, but in the end, blood still leaned toward their father. Even Pablo looked surprised by how shrewd they were. Lucas and Luna smiled sweetly. "Is that okay with you, Dad?" Pablo looked away but nodded.
"Fine."
"It's settled. Tomorrow, 8:30 a.m., we go to the Civil Affairs Bureau." And just like that, he left without hesitation, without looking back. She stood there frozen, the weight of years pressing down on her. From nothing to something, they had built a life together. She had believed, so naively, that after all the storms, a rainbow would come. That with their children by their side, they'd live a peaceful, loving life together. But she hadn't seen how he'd already moved on, cheated, and fathered another child. Her dream had become a joke, and she was the punchline. Her nails dug deep into her palms. The pain grounded her, keeping her from begging him to stay. "Mom, I'm hungry," Luna's voice suddenly cut through the haze. She wrapped her arms around her mother and whined, "That exam drained me. I want a feast." Lucas chimed in, "Me too, Mom. I'm starving." Their unaffected tone brought her a strange comfort. Wiping away her tears, she took their hands. "What do you want to eat? I'll make it right now." Lucas tugged her gently. "Mom, with all the property and the cash from those shares, you're a millionaire now. Can't we just go somewhere fancy for once?"
She
chuckled, embarrassed. In the past, She had always cooked their meals herself for their health, for their happiness. The twins loved her food. Sometimes she made too much and let them bring extras to school for their classmates. The kids adored her and would greet her with cheerful "Mama" whenever they saw her. Those were hard days but happy ones. And just like that, they were gone. Still, she told herself, she would stay strong for her kids. That evening, the three of them went to the best hot pot restaurant in the city. It was bustling with noise and laughter, and the spicy aroma of boiling broth filled the air. Her spirits lifted a little. Watching them eat, she knew the coming years of high school wouldn't be easy, but she had to say something. "Lucas, Luna," she began, "even though your dad and I are divorced, we both still love you. That will never change." She wasn't trying to defend Pablo. Far from it. But as parents, they had a responsibility. They couldn't let their children's young, hopeful hearts be poisoned by bitterness. Luna dropped duck intestines into the red broth, counted to 7 silently, then pulled them out and ate with a calm expression. "Why would I resent him?" she said, shrugging. "I want to study hard, become beautiful, be a goddess. I've got way too much to focus on." Her confidence caught her off guard. She turned to Lucas, worried he might not feel the same. Lucas took a bite of steamed vegetables and gave her a small, comforting smile. "I don't resent him either, and honestly, I don't care. Mom, you really need to learn from Luna and me, okay?" The gentle steam rising from the hot pot blurred their faces, but she could see it clearly now these 2 children of hers had changed. They had matured far beyond their years. She looked at them and nodded firmly, not just to acknowledge their words, but as a silent vow to herself. "I know," she said softly. Luna interrupted her thoughts with cheerful energy, scooping a pile of shrimp balls from the broth and placing them in her bowl. "Mom, these are your favorite." Lucas added 2 fried ones with a smirk. "No, she likes these better." She chuckled and thanked them both, picking up each piece one by one. As the warmth of the food settled in her stomach, she felt a weight lifting from her chest. For the first time in days, the sadness didn't feel suffocating. The next morning, before the sun had even risen, she opened her eyes to the empty space beside her. The silence was heavier than usual. Pablo was gone. The comfort of the night before, the laughter and food, had faded, leaving a hollow ache. She sat up, eyes stinging. She knew she shouldn't feel this way, but she couldn't help it. She wasn't some powerful heroine who could snap her fingers and erase a lifetime of love. She was just a woman, a housewife, fragile in her own right. Pablo had been the man she gave her youth to, the one she built a life with, the father of her children. Letting go wasn't as easy as signing a paper. Just then, Luna knocked on her door. "Mom, are you awake?" "Yeah," she said, quickly wiping her eyes and getting up. When she opened the door, Luna was standing there with a bright smile and a long white dress in her hands. "We bought this for you. Wear it today to the civil office." She blinked in surprise, taking in the elegant long-sleeved dress with lace trimming and a fitted waistline. "Isn't this too fancy for me?" she asked, self-conscious. "Of course not. You're the most beautiful mom in the world," Luna declared proudly, dragging her toward the closet. "Come on, let's get you changed. I'll do your makeup too." She hesitated, but then gave in. She didn't want to dim Luna's enthusiasm. After years of avoiding mirrors and pretending that looking good didn't matter, today she let herself be seen again. When she finally looked in the mirror, even she was stunned. The woman staring back was elegant, graceful, with lines that spoke of stories and strength. She wasn't old. She wasn't forgotten. She was still beautiful. Lucas appeared beside her, staring in awe. "Mom, you look amazing," he said softly. Her throat tightened, and she pulled her kids into a hug. "Thank you. For everything." Luna hugged her waist. "If you really want to thank us, take us on a trip. Once school starts, we'll be buried in textbooks for the next 3 years." She smiled, blinking. Away tears. "All right. You pick the place. Anywhere you want." At exactly 8:30 a.m., They arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Pablo was already there, standing with Oriana, his assistant and now very clearly his pregnant mistress. Oriana stood smugly beside him, her hand constantly resting on her small belly, wearing a face full of pride. Pablo's eyes lit up when he saw her in the white dress. For a moment he stared too long. Oriana noticed and tugged at his arm, annoyed. Only then did Pablo look away, shifting uncomfortably. Luna walked up to her with wide eyes and an innocent voice. "Auntie, why are you holding your stomach like that? Are you full, or are you just trying to show off?" Oriana's face darkened immediately. She clung to Pablo's arm and whined, "Pablo, say something. Your daughter's being mean to me." Pablo frowned, about to speak, but Lucas stepped in first, scolding his sister in a sharp tone. "Luna, what are you doing? You're not a little kid anymore. Just because Dad used to spoil you doesn't mean you can act however you want." Luna's eyes turned red as she looked up at Pablo. "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to. I was just joking." Her voice trembled slightly. Pablo paused, memories flooding in, holding his kids in his arms, watching them grow. Now, even their playful words were turning into conflict. He turned to Oriana and snapped, "She's just a child. Why are you taking it so seriously? Go wait outside." With that, Oriana reluctantly walked off, sulking. Moments later, with the civil staff as witnesses, the divorce was finalized. The papers were signed. 1 month from now, it would be official. As they stepped out, Oriana clung tightly to Pablo and made sure to walk ahead of them, her tone sweet but loud enough to hear. "Darling, where are we going to celebrate tonight?" Lucas casually replied without even looking at her. "Auntie, the rotating restaurant downtown is nice. My parents used to go there for anniversaries." Luna added, "Or the one in the suburbs. Last time, Dad drove all the way there to get food just to cheer Mom up." Lucas smirked. "Now that I think about it, pretty much every nice place in town, Dad already took Mom." "Of course," Luna said, tossing her hair. Oriana's face turned pale with rage. She reached up and pinched Pablo's arm. Pablo winced but couldn't lose his cool in public. His face was just as dark as hers. Meanwhile, Lucas and Luna acted as if nothing happened. They each took one of their mother's hands and strolled right past them, chatting excitedly. "Hey bro," Luna said, "where should we go on our trip?" Lucas thought for a second, then grinned. "Let's go to Thailand. The guys there are super handsome, just like Chinese idols. Mom deserves a visual feast." "Perfect," Luna clapped. "Or New Zealand. With how Mom looks now, she totally fits that foreign beauty vibe." Laughing, they walked away as the sunlight bathed them in warmth, leaving behind the ones who thought they'd be missed. "Who knows, maybe I'll even find a foreign boyfriend." She joked lightly, but the words had barely left her lips when she saw Pablo's face darken behind them. He stepped forward, tone sharp. "Sandra, are you planning to go abroad?" She didn't bother looking at him. She replied vaguely, keeping her eyes on her phone. She had no interest in explaining her life to a man who had walked out on her. Taking the kids on a trip felt like a good idea, that was all that mattered. Pablo muttered something under his breath, then said, "I have a friend who owns a travel agency. You can go through him. I'll let him know to take good care of you all." Luna stopped in her tracks, then turned with mock surprise. "Wow, Dad, that's so thoughtful of you." Lucas followed with a polite, "Thanks, Dad." Pablo's smile softened with pride as he looked at his children, completely oblivious to the way Oriana beside him was practically grinding her teeth, her expression twisted in barely contained rage. In the end, she did go abroad with the twins, booking their itinerary through Pablo's friend's agency. And, to her surprise, the trip turned out to be incredible. They toured multiple countries, had personal guides and translators. Every detail from meals to accommodations was perfectly arranged. In Provence, her daughter dragged her into a lavender field for photos and whispered, "If someone's paying, you'd be stupid not to enjoy it. Dad's footing the bill, so we might as well make it count." "She's right," Lucas chimed in from a short distance away, camera in hand. "Okay, smile, both of you.
Say cheese.
Luna grabbed her hand and made a peace sign. The pose might have been cliché, but the joy on her daughter's face was genuine. Just like the life she was rediscovering after the divorce. Later, the three of them wore traditional hanfu and took photos in Times Square. They went to Russia, drove real tanks, fired real guns. Watching bullets rip through human-shaped targets, she realized something her kids hadn't just wanted to unwind. They were trying to lift her spirit. All those years she'd misjudged men, but somehow she had raised the two most thoughtful children in the world. She loved them more than anything. After they returned home, she felt a strange restlessness. The $10 million from the stock liquidation had landed in her account. The remaining marital assets, 3/4 of them were on their way. But she didn't want to be idle. She wanted something of her own. Something she could grow with her own hands. After some thought, she remembered the lifestyle vlogs she'd seen stay-at-home moms cooking, sharing recipes, filming little moments of life. If the videos were cozy, the food looked good, and the editing was clean, they attracted lots of views. Some even sold products through affiliate links or hosted live streams to connect with fans and earn tips. She pitched the idea to her children, and both of them were immediately supportive. "Mom, if it makes you happy, do it," they said in unison. With their encouragement, she posted her first video, braised pork in honey sauce. It didn't go viral, but it earned a decent number of views and sweet comments. She wasn't expecting overnight success. She was in it for the long run. Slowly, her days started to feel full again. She had purpose, peace, and a rhythm that felt right. But just when she was preparing to pick up her official divorce certificate, Pablo suddenly showed up at her door. "I don't want a divorce anymore," he said. If he'd said that a month earlier, maybe she would have felt relief, or even a flicker of joy. But now, her mind was no longer tethered to him. Her world revolved around Lucas, Luna, and herself. She stared at him, a little disgusted. "Why?" she asked coldly. Pablo rubbed his hands nervously. His eyes flicked about before settling into a rehearsed look of regret. "Sandra, I've thought a lot about this. I realize now I can't let you go. I can't let go of the kids." She stared at him, completely still. Couldn't let go? Since their son started high school, Pablo had buried himself in work and business trips. Every time she called, he snapped that she was being clingy or unromantic. /strong. /heart. Surprised face.
Ash.
Then he met someone else, cheated, and demanded a divorce like it was a business transaction. Now he can't let go. Was she supposed to believe pigs could fly? She took a step back and asked sharply, "So just because you realized you were wrong, I'm supposed to take you back? You're willing to return, but I'm not willing to have you. And the kids don't want you either." Pablo froze, stunned by her response. After a long silence, he left, humiliated. But something still didn't sit right. Why the sudden change? He had been so eager to divorce her, even offering her the lion's share of the assets and company shares. Now he wanted to come back. What about Oriana and the baby? Did they just vanish from his life? Something had happened, she was sure of it. She reached out to a few contacts she'd built during her time with him and started digging. And eventually, she found the truth. Pablo's company was in trouble. Not long ago, Oriana had started throwing her weight around, using her pregnancy as a shield to act like the CEO's wife. She interfered with operations, frustrated the staff, and drove away several experienced employees. But it didn't stop there. She began meddling in external partnerships too, switching suppliers without authorization. She claimed the new one would save 5% in costs. But before Pablo could even praise her, they discovered that the parts were defective, completely unusable. Everything had to be scrapped. And the money?
Gone.
Pablo was now scrambling to find a new supplier before everything collapsed. Without the necessary parts, Pablo's factory had come to a standstill. Production halted, delivery deadlines were missed, and the company was forced to pay massive penalties for breach of contract. After several failures like that, Pablo was drained, and the company was bleeding losses. There had once been a faint hope that, with time and effort, the company might go public. Now that dream was delayed indefinitely. Worse, the shares I had sold to Pablo at a high price were now worth barely half of what he'd paid. Frustrated and desperate, he ended up having a public meltdown and got into a screaming match with Oriana in front of the entire staff. In a moment of rage, he pushed her. Oriana stumbled and fell hard. Blood seeped through the hospital-striped pants she wore, and she was rushed to the hospital. The doctors later told her she might not be able to keep the baby. She was now under observation, bedridden, possibly infertile. Pablo, overwhelmed, didn't seem to care. His attention was entirely fixed on one thing: the money I now had. That's why he came crawling back, asking to reconcile. When Lucas and Luna heard about it, because somehow they always did, they simply responded with a shrug. As long as it doesn't delay the divorce, it's fine. Those two really had foresight. The day we were supposed to collect our official divorce certificate, Pablo didn't show. When I finally got through to him on the phone, he sounded disappointed. "Sandra, do you really have to be so harsh?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You want to talk about harsh? What you did was far crueler than anything I'm doing now." He muttered, falling into silence. I didn't bother playing nice. "Your company's reputation is already in the gutter. If you want it to sink further, I'll happily fuel the fire as your victimized ex-wife." That shut him up. 30 minutes later, he arrived in a hurry, alone this time, no Oriana in sight. He wore the same suit from our last meeting, now wrinkled and stained at the cuffs and collar. His hair was messy, his beard untrimmed. He looked like a man unraveling. I said nothing, just walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau ahead of him. Head down, Pablo trailed behind me slowly. Finally, the divorce certificate was in my hands. I stood at the entrance, the breeze soft against my face, sunlight warming my skin in a way that felt strangely healing. Pablo reached out and grabbed my arm, voice unusually soft. "Sandra, can we talk?" "Just lunch." I hesitated. After the cold, heartless way he had left, I knew that no amount of humility from him would move me. Still, I realized that unless I gave this closure, he'd keep reappearing. So I agreed, reluctantly. He initially wanted to take me to our old favorite restaurant, but even the best food would taste like wax with him sitting across from me. So I picked a random place nearby and ordered without emotion. Once the waiter left, we were alone. Pablo took a sip of water just as his phone began vibrating. He glanced at the screen, hung up immediately, then blocked the number when it rang again. Finally, he looked at me, rubbing his index finger and thumb together, a nervous habit I knew too well. "If you've got something to say, say it," I told him flatly. He cleared his throat. "I originally promised you 3/4 of the marital assets, and they were supposed to transfer today. But the company's had some issues. Can we delay that? And the shares you sold me? You probably still have tens of millions from that. Could you lend me something just to get through this emergency? I know I've let you down, and I know it's crazy to ask now, but we were once husband and wife, and the 3/4 of the marital assets can wait." I cut him off. "But according to market interest rates, you'll pay me interest. As for the 10 million from the shares, I'll lend you half." My video platform views had been steadily climbing. With product sales and live stream donations, I could now support both myself and the kids comfortably. The money sitting in the bank was earning less than what I could charge him in interest. Besides, Pablo was still the father of my
children.
If he managed to recover and someday passed, the kids would inherit. So from both a rational and emotional standpoint, I was willing to help. Pablo stared at me in silence. Maybe he'd thought I'd use this moment to demand he break things off with Oriana. Maybe he expected anger or bitterness. Instead, I stayed calm, professional. No emotions. Just terms. And in that moment, I think he finally realized I had truly let him go. His face paled, and a wistful sadness flickered in his eyes. After a long pause, he nodded.
"Fine.
I'll have my secretary draw up the loan agreement and send it to you as soon as possible. Sandra, you've changed a lot. I remember before you used to." "Enough," I snapped. He thought there were still good memories between us, but he didn't know that the moment he betrayed me, Everything we had turned into a chocolate candy dipped in sewage. It might look sweet on the outside, but inside, it was revolting. I grabbed my purse and stood to leave when suddenly the door burst open. Oriana stumbled into the room. Her hair was a mess, her skin pale as chalk, hospital pants soaked in blood spreading down her thighs. Her voice was hoarse as she staggered toward Pablo.
Why?
Why didn't you answer my calls? Do you know I lost the baby? They had to remove my uterus. Pablo looked her up and down with clear disgust. The baby's gone, then it's gone. This is a public place. What's wrong with you? Get out of here. Oriana's steps faltered. She looked at him as if seeing a stranger. Do you know what you're saying? Our baby is gone. There won't be another. You ruined my life. And you're just done? Pablo, do you even have a conscience? Conscience. Pablo laughed coldly. Oriana, don't think I don't know. The defective parts came from your ex-boyfriend's company. You two have been secretly in touch behind my back, and whether the baby was even mine is another story entirely. I didn't expose it earlier because of appearances, but you think an abortion is enough to manipulate me? Oriana froze. Her face paled as a flicker of guilt crossed her eyes. Desperately, she looked around and finally turned to me. Was it you, Sandra? Did you leak the information? Are you the one who's been fueling all of this? Before I could respond, Pablo stepped forward and blocked her view. This has nothing to do with Sandra, he said flatly. There are no secrets that stay buried forever. Someone in the company must have had enough and sent me the evidence. I don't even know who it was. And that was true. I had no idea who had sent the documents, but one thing was clear: I had finally seen Oriana for who she really was. You're defending her now? So what, freshly divorced and already back together? Oriana's expression twisted into something ugly. Her emotions boiled over and more blood soaked into her hospital-striped pants. Sandra, you're the real homewrecker. You shameless woman, always trying to seduce other people's men. I looked at her, a mess of rage and delusion, and couldn't help but find it amusing. The mistress calling the wife the third party? How shameless could one person be? Enough, Pablo roared before I could speak. Oriana, don't push it. You are the one who seduced me, who crawled into my bed. You are the mistress. I must have been blind to fall for you. Now look at my life. My career, everything, it's in ruins because of you. You're a curse. Anyone who gets involved with you is doomed. Honestly, I don't even care that you lost the baby. I have my own children. You, on the other hand, you'll be used up and die alone and miserable. You animal. You bastard. Oriana screamed, trembling with rage. I had no interest in watching them tear each other apart, so I turned to leave. Stop right there. Sandra, I know it was you. You turned Pablo against me. You did this. Oriana's hysteria broke loose. She grabbed a fork from the table and lunged at me, screaming, You ruined me. No one's getting out of here alive. You all die today. Watch out. Before I could react, Pablo stepped in front of me. With a sickening thud, the sharp fork plunged into his neck. I stood frozen as bright red blood spurted out, splashing across my face. Taking the hit for Sandra? What a hero. Then die like one. Oriana had completely lost
it.
With the fork still embedded in his neck, she pushed it another half-inch deeper. What happened after that is still a blur. Amid the chaos, I stumbled out of the room and called the police and paramedics. The next thing I remember, I was sitting in a hospital corridor. Oriana had been arrested. Pablo was undergoing emergency surgery. The doctor said the fork had torn through his trachea and artery, causing massive blood loss and severe oxygen deprivation to his brain. Even if he survived, he might never wake up, and if he did, he'd face years of rehabilitation. When key employees at the company heard the news, they came to see me. The business was already crumbling. With Pablo incapacitated, things were even worse. I had once helped build that company, knew its operations, and was familiar with most of its partners.
They wanted me to step in and take charge.
I had just lent Pablo a large sum of money, and if the company collapsed, that money would vanish with it. More importantly, whatever came next, I wanted it to be for my children. So I agreed. When my kids found out Pablo was in the hospital, they visited once. Neither showed much emotion. They stayed less than 10 minutes before heading back to school and never returned. A year passed. Oriana was sentenced to 7 years in prison for intentional bodily harm. Shortly after the verdict, Pablo emerged from his coma, but he couldn't walk or speak. He would need long-term rehabilitation. By then, I had already taken over the company. After much persuasion from senior staff, Pablo signed over full control to me. From that day forward, I became the true owner. Meanwhile, my cooking channel had grown exponentially, reaching hundreds of thousands of followers. With my schedule packed, Lucas and Luna began helping me manage it. They even started their own channels and quickly gained tens of thousands of fans. I no longer had to support them financially, they earned their own keep. One afternoon, after their second-year finals, they came to pick me up from work. "How were the exams?" I asked. Lucas adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, voice calm. "They were fine. I'll probably place top 10 in my grade." "Don't listen to him," Luna chimed in, bouncing beside me. "Since the beginning of high school, when has my brother ever dropped below top 3? I smiled and stroked her hair. "And you, sweetheart? How are your scores?" "Don't worry," she grinned. "I may not be a genius like him, but I'll definitely make it into a top university." "So impressive." I laughed. "In that case, dinner's on me tonight, whatever you want." "Thanks, Mom. You're the best." "No, you two are the best," I said, looking at my vibrant, beautiful daughter and my calm, handsome son. They had grown up into intelligent, capable young people. With children like them, I knew my life would only get better. Epilogue Luna, Chapter 1. In our past life, at the exact moment Dad asked Mom for a divorce, he also promised my brother and me that he wouldn't control us like she did. He said he'd give us freedom and a better life. Back then, Mom was always around, constantly nagging and setting rules. Dad, on the other hand, was gone for months at a time. But when he came home, he brought gifts and smiles. At the age when we began to rebel and push back against authority, we gladly chose to live with him. But life in Dad's house wasn't as sweet as we imagined. Oriana was pregnant and clung to our father like a lifeline. With the baby on the way, Dad barely looked at me anymore. He constantly frowned and snapped. "Girls should be quiet and obedient. Why are you so loud all the time? I should have never had you. Just go live with your mom." Oriana took every opportunity to belittle my brother. "He's just a kid." "So, what if he ruined your homework and awards? You're such a perfectionist, just like your mother." Soon, using the excuse of what's best for us, they sent both of us to a remote boarding school. We didn't even receive our allowances on time. My brother, still growing, didn't have enough to eat, and hunger became a real problem. He was often so famished that his stomach felt like it was eating itself. His once excellent grades began to slip. I had it worse. Some months, I couldn't even afford sanitary pads. To save money for me, my brother skipped meals until one day, he fainted from hunger in the middle of class.
We weren't blind.
We knew our situation was miserable, and we tried to tell Dad. But he was too focused on his new wife and the baby to care. Even when he heard us out, he'd dismiss it with a few meaningless words and never confront Oriana. If anything, she'd punish us harder afterward. So, we stopped complaining. We swallowed our hunger and shame in silence. The only light during those dark days was Mom. She visited whenever she could, never once resenting us for choosing to live with Dad. She still found ways to save money and quietly slipped crumpled bills into our hands. We knew she had given up half of her rightful assets just to ensure Dad would take care of us properly. That wrinkled cash was probably everything she had. My brother and I were racked with guilt. We wanted so badly to repay her, but we were just two high school students with no power. We swore we'd graduate, get jobs, and give her everything she deserved. But then the accident happened. It came out of nowhere. That day, after our sophomore finals, Dad's driver was supposed to pick us up. but Oriana called and had the driver take her shopping instead.
We had no money, no phones.
We had no choice but to walk home. It was already dark. A group of lowlifes spotted us and approached. They started touching me. My brother tried to protect me, but they beat him to death with a brick. And I didn't survive either. We both died that freezing, snowy winter night. At our funeral, Dad looked lost, but that was all just lost. Oriana, the one who had caused everything, acted like she cared and cooed to Dad. "Don't be sad, honey. Our son will be fine. He'll be better than Sandra's kids ever could have been." Dad felt comforted immediately. Only Mom was left screaming uncontrollably in front of our coffins. Her cries were so raw, so piercing, she looked like she might pass out from grief. But her heartbreak didn't spark even an ounce of guilt in Dad. In fact, he found her display embarrassing. "Stop it. You look insane. Look at yourself, you're terrifying," he shouted. Oriana, ever the snake, sneered. "They're dead. Why all the drama? Don't scare my child." Something in Mom snapped. Overcome with pain, she reached into her worn cloth bag, pulled out a kitchen knife, and lunged at them with tears in her eyes. "You killed my children. You'll pay with your lives." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the night Dad asked Mom for a divorce. I looked at my twin brother, and I could tell from the weight in his eyes she had come back too. We had both been reborn. We rushed home as fast as we could. And sure enough, there was Dad, calmly laying out the terms of the divorce, while Mom sat stunned and on the verge of tears. My brother and I exchanged a single glance and knew exactly what we had to do. He would handle Dad, using whatever scraps of love and guilt still remained in that man's heart to win the best possible outcome for Mom. I would stay close to her, be her comfort, her little ray of light in this dark storm. We took care of her tenderly, shielding her from sadness. Behind the scenes, we quietly gathered evidence, photos, messages, proof of Oriana's too friendly relationships with other men. We sent them to Pablo anonymously, whispering doubt and jealousy into his ear. This time, there would be no mistake. This time, we would protect Mom. We would never let her suffer again. We swore, with every fiber of our souls, to make her the happiest mother in the world.